Hello all, welcome to the lecture series on Python and Scientific Python course. Now we are heading to the contents that belongs to Unit 2. The first topic in Unit 2 is functions. Okay. So what do you mean by function in Python programming language? Function is a reusable block of code that performs a specific task. Okay, why do we use it? They are mainly used to avoid repetition of codes, better to have a better readability. Also it helps to make debugging easier. Okay, how do we write? The basic syntax of a function is a function always starts with a function name that is followed by the def. Okay, followed by the uh, def function. Okay, this is def statement is used whenever you are going to define any function. So after def followed by def you can define your function name, right? It can be any name, and your function can have its own parameters inside. Okay, followed by that you give your colon and then give whatever the blocks of codes that are to be executed inside the function. Finally the function should have a return value. Okay, this is the default syntax of defining any function. For example, let me start with a simple program to make you understand how the function simple functioning example is working in Python. First, let me write a code for greeting a person. For example, I am defining the function called greet with no parameters inside. So I define the function called greet, and this greet function should greet people with a hello, welcome, with a hello message and a welcome message. Okay. Finally, after defining the function, you need to call the function for execution after a few spaces. Okay, then you try to see that it is executed. Okay, this is a simple welcome note function. For example, this is a greet program. This is a function that has been defined to greet uniformly for everyone, right? For example, if we have several guests and every guest have to be greeted separately with their own names. If that is the case, if imagine that if you're having around 10 people for your dinner at home, and if you have to write a program to greet all those 10 people, you need not call this function with all the separate 10 people names separately. Okay, instead that what you can do is you can write a simple one line program for greeting and call the function with different names. So let us see that with an example. I am defining the same greet function with no parameters, and I am giving the print statement of welcome home for the dinner. Okay, here what you need to do is I need to define the parameter if I have to greet every single person based on their name. The parameter is name. Okay. Now what I can do is welcome home for the dinner. Then I can call them with their name. Right? Now what I can do is I can call the function greet with the people name. Anita, greet Bala, greet Charlie, greet Danny, greet Emmy, greet Fatima, right? So these are few people. Let us check whether the greet function is able to print Welcome home for dinner with every single name. Yeah, they're all string, so I forgot. Right. Inside the quotes. They are supposed to be mentioned inside the quotes. I missed it. Right. All the string in Python should be written inside the quotes. Right. Now this will execute. Yeah. You could say welcome home for dinner Anita, welcome home for dinner Bala for each and every single day. Okay. So if this function is not used, then you should have written the code for printing everybody's name with the same statement. So 10 print statements you should have been using to execute this particular uh, example. Okay. So these two examples are simple great functions where you don't use any mathematical calculations behind. So you need not have any written functions or written value to the functions. Okay. But when you have to do a mathematical calculation, maybe like when you have to send your result back to the caller, means that whatever result has been executed should be passed to the function declaration back, then you have to use the written statement is mainly used for storing the result. Also it will be helpful to reuse the result. For example, when you have to add two numbers, how functions are helpful in adding the two numbers. Define add function, add underscore two numbers. I am defining the parameters of the two numbers as a and b, and now I have a return of a plus b, right? I'm using return function. Then I'm after five few spaces, I need to find the result is equal to. Now you can call your function with arguments, whatever the values when you're calling inside the function name. When you're calling the function, they are called as arguments. When you're defining the function, they are called parameters. So here a and b are parameters, 3 and 5 are arguments. Now you can print result. And now you can see the addition result of a and b. Oh, sorry, add two numbers is a function name. Yeah, you can also have this for n number of values. You can repeat this for n number of values as well. Can be many things. So you could see you can call this functions as many times you wanted. You need not repeat the same block of code for n number of times. Instead, you can just call the functions for n number of times according to the requirement. Okay, let us do a realistic e-commerce example using functions for calculating total price of the product that is being purchased. So let me define the function as calculate underscore bill. Okay, so here price and quantity of the product is important. So how much quantity they have purchased and what is the price of the each quantity. So the total value of the total bill should be calculated based on the price and the quantity. So the price and quantity should be multiplied with each other. Okay, and then return the function, return the value, return the result. Okay, now we need to do it for our requirement. So I can have bill is equal to, call this function, so calculate underscore bill. Now it is time that you should pass on your arguments here. So I have the purchase, I have the price of the each quantity I have purchased is 500, and I have bought four quantities of each, and I need to print the bill, right? So here colon is missed. Now you could check its price. Okay. Um Let us just see what will happen without a written value. So you could see that if I remove this written statement, your system is printing none. It means that it doesn't mean that this operation is not uh, done. The operation of the calculation of product between the price and quantity is done, but it is not stored. Okay, it is not stored or it cannot be reused. So written statement becomes a mandatory statement whenever you come across any numerical calculations using function. So if you write any code by defining a function for mathematical problem solving, then always rely on using a written statement in order to reuse your result in future. Okay, so without a written statement you will by default receive an output of none. Okay, using written statement will give you the actual execution of your program. So this can be done for n number of times according to the requirement. So I can pass this function, right? So this is how this e-commerce, simple e-commerce billing system can work. Okay, so this arguments and parameters, whenever we are talking about the parameters and arguments, you can also have default parameters and default arguments also. First, let us learn about default parameters. Okay, default parameters is what we have done in the greet function declaration. So let us define a function name called greet with name is equal to guest. This should be inside the quotes because it's a string. Now print hello comma name. Okay, so if the guest name is known to you, you can call the greet function with their name. Now I know the guest name, so it is Priya. The first guest name is Priya, hence I'm giving the name of the guest. I also know the name of my second guest, maybe Sanjay. I also know the name of my third guest, Aditya. But I'm not aware of my fourth guest. But definitely they have to be greeted as well. Hence, I can greet with no function with no arguments called inside the greet function. So if I don't call the arguments inside the greet function, they will print whatever you have set as a default name inside the parameter declaration of the function. So now what is the expected output? Known guest should be printed as hello Priya, hello Sanjay, hello Aditya, and the unknown name guest should be printed as hello guest itself. Okay, if no argument is defined, then you will obviously use the default parameter. That is what the meaning is. right? You could see hello Priya, hello Sanjay, hello Aditya, and hello guest, right? You can also try few more examples by yourself. And now it is high time that we work on with types of arguments in function, right? Basically, defining the types of arguments, how do we pass the values inside the arguments? Based on that, we have the types of arguments as follows. First one is positional argument. Second one is keyword argument. Third one is default argument. And fourth one is variable argument. Right? Let us see one by one with the programming example under each. The first one is positional arguments. Arguments are passed in the same order as parameters. Whatever in the order you have declared your parameters when you're calling your function, when you're declaring your function, in the same order, the values inside the arguments also will be passed. For example, let us define a function to call function name as transfer. This is a back transfer programming example. From account, then to account, and then how much amount we are going to transfer. They are the parameters. Now we need to print from is from which account. So from is from account. Then we need to print to should be from to account. Okay. Then we should print amount should be the amount. Okay, so this is how the function is done, declaration is done. Now let us call the transfer function. Transfer function is called, and A123, sorry, P345 amount can be 3500. Okay, now somewhere where this colon is out, should be here. Right, now you could see from is A123, 2 is B345, and amount is 3500. You could see from to and amount is printed in the same order of how you declared your parameters, in the same order your arguments are passed. So this is how position